Hi there, I'm pleased to be able to kick off a new YouTube series here today, Star Wars lore for LEGO fans. I see a shocking amount of misinformation with regards to LEGO and Star Wars these days, whether it be accuracy, name pronunciation or scale and so on. I think it's quite a unique concept to tailor lore to LEGO fans and upcoming LEGO releases. I'm very excited to get into it, and I'm going to start with one of the most talked about sets of recent years, the 2025 Death Star, or the Death Slice. So this set is a combination of a Death Star 1 and Death Star 2. This is a sensible move for LEGO to have made, as iconic scenes take place in both. Now, it should be made known that the Death Star 2 is significantly larger than the Death Star 1, with a diameter of approximately 200 kilometres compared to the Death Star 1's 150 or so, though the specific sizes vary depending on the source. The increased size accommodated a larger, more powerful superlaser, multiple hypermatter reactors for faster charging, and a greater internal volume for ships and personnel. The Death Star 1's superlaser took 24 hours to recharge after a full-strength blast. The Death Star 2, however, took just 3 minutes. This was due to more efficient crystals and an entire reactor dedicated to the superlaser. A superlaser that had a greatly improved targeting system, allowing it to destroy smaller targets such as capital ships as well as planets. We see this multiple times in the battle that raged above Endor. Now, anyone following my work will know that I love working with Star Wars minifigures. Check out Return of the Bricks on Instagram to see my full catalogue of work. Now, in this set we have 38 minifigures, and that will primarily be our focus here today. I'd like to start off with the characters I find more interesting here, the new stuff. The heroes from the original trilogy have undergone such minor changes and updates. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that fans perhaps were not that excited by them, cool and iconic as they are, of course. That being said, my focus will be on Imperial High Command, coincidentally where much of the confusion within the LEGO community is. So first up, Cassio Tag. In a direct quote from Emperor Palpatine, Tag always argued against the arrogance of the Death Star as a sole weapon. He alone was properly wary of the rebel threat. Now, a lot of the misinformation floating around revolves around these Imperial characters, how you pronounce their names, and even what happens in the films themselves. So, Cassio Tag, and that is how you pronounce it, it's not Taji or Tage, as I have seen him referred to by others in the LEGO Star Wars creator community. Tag is part of the Tag dynasty, famously opposed the Death Star. He believed that a strong and united Starfleet was the best way to keep the local systems in line. He was concerned and believed that the Death Star was not as invincible as it seemed. Of course, he was not on the battle station when it was destroyed by Luke Skywalker, and after these events he was promoted to Grand General. Lord Vader was blamed for the destruction of the first Death Star, and Tag would not let him forget this. But eventually Lord Vader would prove his worth to Palpatine once more and be given supreme control of the Imperial military. Now, Vader's first act of business was, of course, to kill Tag, and that's exactly what he did. So I mentioned the Tag dynasty. The Tags are essentially a hugely wealthy family, constantly attempting to seek favour with the Emperor. They've been around a long time, well prior to the Clone Wars. The dynasty included multiple high-ranking military personnel, rich military history there, scientists, and even Force sensitives. The next minifigure, or character, that's causing some confusion in this set is Conan Antonio Motti, otherwise known as Admiral Motti. He is also introduced in A New Hope, and when we join him he's in the middle of a heated debate with Tag as Vader enters the conference room with Grand Moff Tarkin. He is shortly after this force-choked by Darth Vader for openly mocking Vader and the Force. He is only released by Vader upon the request of Tarkin. So Motti, like Tag, is a member of a highly influential military family. He joined what was in essence a military youth movement on his home planet in the Outer Rim, and quickly rose through the ranks. He went from an officer to Rear Admiral of the Star Destroyer Steel Talon. He would eventually find himself on the Council of Joint Chiefs, a council made up of highly ranking military personnel that would directly advise Palpatine, and was even considered for the new position of Grand Moff. However, this role would of course go to Wilf Tarkin. Motti had great confidence in the Death Star, and this would of course be his downfall. He was aboard the Death Star when it was destroyed by Luke Skywalker and the Rebellion. Now, among these figures, of course, we have Grand Moff Tarkin, Director Krennic, Galen Erso, and Colonel Yularen. I think many fans are familiar with these characters. I may explore them more in future episodes, but there is one other figure here that people really don't seem to know a lot about. They've never been seen before in LEGO, and he is of course Sim Alu, or as LEGO have for some reason referred to him as Imperial Dignitary. Very vague, but LEGO is known for this kind of thing, let's be honest. Alu is a human male, a businessman and a bureaucrat, who served as one of Palpatine's closest advisors. Palpatine had several close advisors, however Sim Alu is known for greedily engineering the industrialization of his homeworld and offering it up to the Empire, using tactics that range from deceit to outright murder. Nasty stuff. Not only do we see a lack of print detail with this minifigure, obviously in the leg area, we don't even get his name for the box. There may be more information inside in the instruction manual, I can't speak to that, but the lack of detail here leaves plenty to be desired. However, it's still a great minifigure and it's one I had to have. Perhaps I'll do a dive into the Emperor's dignitaries in the future. Just so you are aware, every single dignitary seen in Return of the Jedi has a name and a backstory, some of which are quite interesting and mysterious. It is a shame LEGO doesn't seem to be aware of this. That's going to wrap this one up. I'm fairly new to this style of content, so do let me know what you think of it. Hopefully my audio is better than it was on my Minifigures of 2025 video. I guess that's what happens when you produce things only wearing your headphones. Let me know if there are any other topics, anything Star Wars and LEGO related you'd like to see covered. I'm pretty keen to get into a few of these. Thanks for watching, and this is the way.